Denzel, a few months ago, I had the great pleasure of interviewing Richard Roundtree on the set of the Bonanza TV movie.
Shaft.
Yeah, and besides impressing him with my knowledge of all the words to the song Shaft, who's the cat who won't cop out, when there's danger all about.
Shaft.
Well, he spoke about all the black actors that came up to him afterwards and said how he inspired them to become actors. What impact did his movies and movies like Superfly have on you when you were growing up?
I saw them all. At that time, I never thought about being an actor. I thought he was the coolest guy that ever lived. I wanted to get a long brown leather coat, you know, and I did, in fact. I remember one of my best friends I grew up with, Carl Wellburn. He started calling himself Priest, which is what they called Ron O'Neal in Superfly. I remember us scratching our names on the door, the elevator in the projects, and he wrote Priest because he wanted to be Priest from Superfly. I remember seeing Jim Brown and those guys in a movie called 3 the Hard Way,
Right, yeah.
and we didn't like it, and we called it 350 the Hard Way because that's how much it cost to see it. So you know, we lived out those characters. I mean, it has an effect on you. I must have been, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 at the time, and you know, we would run around being Shaft, you know.
Denzel, got a question. Turning points in actors' career. Now, appearing at the YMCA show and the talent show. How big of a turning point for you, and what did you do exactly in that show?
That wasn't much of a turning point. I mean, at that point, I hadn't even. No, it was a turning point. I'll tell you why. Because before that, I had taken some acting classes, but I never thought about being an actor. And I was working at the YMCA Camp Sloan, and we had these little skits we put on for the campers. The counselors had to do. And there was a guy there, a counselor there, to this day, I'll never forget, his name's Miles Joyce. And he said to me afterwards, you know, you ever thought about being an actor? Because you're real good on stage and you can make up all this stuff and you seem to be. So I went back to school that fall and I transferred within a university from one campus to the Lincoln Center campus, Fordham University, and started full-time in an acting program.
Now, when you first went to LA just to see what the acting waters were like, what was your first week in Los Angeles like?
Well, I got a job right away as a teacher because I realized I got to eat. Actually, I stayed with my cousins, so it wasn't so bad. They let me borrow a car sometimes when one was available. I remember sitting at the bus stop going, wait a minute, okay, you're a second-class citizen out here if you don't have a car. So I knew I wasn't going to stay long. I was going to go back home, come back east and work. And I found that I decided at that time, LA is not the place to be looking for a job. It's a place to go with a job. So I said, I'll come back to New York to look for work and to, you know, stay in the theater.
Denzel, I've always been fascinated with audience etiquette. I interviewed an actress who was doing a stage play. In the middle of the play, a woman walked up to the front of the stage and said, "Speak up, we can't hear you." When you were doing live theater, what were some of the more interesting interruptions you experienced?
One time I walk out, it's on Broadway, I'm the first person to come out in the play. I'm supposed to walk out and go into the house. So I'm coming from stage left, walking, and the woman right down front, "Psst, Denzel, Denzel, Denzel. That's walking in the first opening of the play. Denzel. Like I was gonna go, hey, let me go do this scene, and then I'll come talk to you on my way.
What kind of roles were you offered that you turned down, that you thought weren't appropriate for you, and how much did that hurt to, you know, not get the paycheck?
Well, I wasn't concerned with the paycheck. You know, we live in a society now, and we've taught our children, evidently, I guess we have to take the blame for it, where they're more concerned about the money. You know, they just want to get paid. I wasn't as concerned about the money. I was fortunate to have a wonderful agent by the name of Ruth Aronson who taught me that the roles that you choose will dictate where you will go in your career. And the same thing I learned from Sidney Poitier. He told me the same thing. I started working in the theater, so I wasn't caught up in the whole Hollywood to make money. I wanted to be a good actor. I looked at it the other way around, which is how young people should look at it today. Learn how to do what you're doing, and then it will take care of you.
Going back to your St. Elsewhere days, I'm just curious, Were there ever people who actually thought you were a doctor, and did people ever ask you for medical advice at all?
When my first son was born, we were at the hospital. We got there before our doctor got there. And so they put you in the greens or whatever, you know. So we're not in the room that we're supposed to be in, that we paid for. They put us in like some community room. I don't know what it was. So I was angry. So I'm heading down toward the nurse's station, and I actually see our doctor coming in. And he sees this guy walking. He says, you know, Denzel, when I saw you, I'm going, I know that doctor. He's Dr. I mean, he couldn't, and then as I got close, he's like, oh, that's Denzel. So that's the only time I can remember being mistaken for a doctor.
So one question first on the lighter side. I'm just curious, have you ever been on an airplane where one of your films was the in-flight movie? And is that a little disconcerting?
I met a kid one time, must have been 8, 9 years old. He came up, he says, you know, can I get your autograph? I said, sure, kid. You know, we talk. He says, it's really not for me. It's for my mother. She's back there just acting silly and, you know, just please. So I signed it for him. And he says, we're going to watch your movie. You know, it's coming on later. I said, oh, okay. It wasn't one of my favorite movies. We'll put it like that. It was one of my least favorite movies that I've been in. And about the third of the way through the movie, the kid comes back up and he just goes, I thought if he had handed me the autograph back, but dude, it was so honest. He just looked at me like.
I'm just curious, when your kids see you in movies, like how impressed are they to see their dad on film?
They don't know any different, so they're not that impressed. We had a dinner the other night, and we had 2 very, very high-profile people come over for dinner, and they were like, you know, I said, can you believe it that so-and-so and so-and-so coming over for dinner? One of which was Eddie Murphy, and they were like, yeah, I mean, it's like Dad's job, you know.
And one final question, also on the humorous side, about the Academy Awards. I've always been fascinated at the Oscars, when people are in the restroom at the Oscars, what are they talking about when you have to take a quick break? What kind of conversations are you hearing in there?
Men don't talk in the bathroom, you know. Men don't even look. You know, you sort of go up to your stall as macho as you can. You know, we sort of look up, you know, you wouldn't dare. You know, I don't make no chit-chat in the bathroom, do they?
No.
No.
All right, thanks very much.
All right.
We're doing a